Hi, Paul.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I am perfect. Welcome to Just
Great.
Start with Jane and our lovely group of now 1,300 strong, great leaders from across the country that join us every week to learn some small bites of leadership, one conversation at a time. And I didn't tell you this, Paul, but the reason why you're here is everywhere we go, we meet those leaders who take our solutions and case them, what we call copy and steal everything, but make it yours and make it better. And then just take things to new heights that we never dreamt imaginable. And where what you and I are going to talk about today is the work of a team. I still really have always admired how you are such an advocate as an executive for the frontline people having a voice through the employee-driven teams, but also an advocate for the employee experience at the senior leader level as well. And I know that's not hard, not easy to do. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
So my guest today is Paul Skoraczewski. He is the HR leader executive, sits on the senior leadership team at the Richland Hospital in Richland Center, Wisconsin. So let's talk about setting high standards for service, a safe and satisfying service excellence program. And, we call it our positive communication standards. What we often hear when we're working in different places across the country or speaking at conferences is, wow, if nurses would just be nice to people, we wouldn't have to worry about the scores, right? If nurses and doctors would
For
just be
sure.
nice to communicate, everybody be nice, it would just be great. Well, Joe Ty, one of my favorite statements from the book, The Florence Prescription, he says, we just can't automatically assume people are going to be kind to each other. We can't automatically assume that people are going to, exceed behavioral expectations and know how to communicate in a positive way. Some people just were never taught that. And the average adult, their behaviors were cemented by the age of 7. So I don't know how old your children are, Paul. How old are your children?
Oh, 6.5. I've got plenty of time left.
Yes, you better get working on this as soon as you get home, buddy, because by the age of 7, you're done. You're done. That kid picking his nose in the corner, forever. Okay? Forever.
Bummer.
So, and whenever I teach this way, these great positive communication standards, which we've expanded to 12 now, when I teach them, I teach that, hey, people, either to employees, physicians, or leaders, this is how we have to treat each other. If we don't begin by slaying our own dinner, so to speak, that if we don't begin role modeling it by treating each other this way, how will we ever know to do it with patients, families, members of our community, future patients, right? So how do you do that? So the reason why I wanted you here is I just think it's genius how you began to integrate and really connect the dots for employees on the positive communication standards and your standards of behavior, which you refer to as the 7 C's. And you got a great start on that. And I want everyone to know about it because it's genius. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me today. You're right. There are plenty of ways that positive communication standards overlaps with our behavior standards, which we do call the 7 C's, and with the employee experience as a whole. I think it's one of the most important things that we discuss, and we discuss it from orientation all the way up through our annual review process. It's setting a lofty standard that we want to live up to. We kind of first need to accept and agree to a common goal and a common standard. And so those 7 C's have been really successful for us as an organization. They've been instrumental into part of our transformational journey, our soaring to excellence journey. So they're the common expectations for staff, whether they be new or seasoned or from a merged entity. They represent the common language that we all have. They're the important piece of the what for what we collectively expect out of one another. So when we were looking at our positive communication standards, we sort of thought of them as one-off programs, like 12 one-off programs. And so each of them had kind of varying levels of buy-in from staff or even understanding from staff. And so we really wanted to get back to refresh and rebrand those initiatives. And ultimately, we kind of decided that they're really intimately involved with our 7Cs, because these represent the how in terms of living our behavior standards. They're the tools for how we role model these standards, and they become alive. And so they're kind of built in, like our communication. We have we call it high in the hallway, telephone etiquette, our IS bar Q. They all kind of roll up into that communication standard. So they kind of give you a roadmap for how to carry out those behavior standards. Commitment. We talk about managing up a lot. Customer service recovery. That's the one of the biggest areas that we focus on for a variety of customers, whether they be internal or external. And so that was a really great connection that was made from our staff members when we got together to sit down to talk about how we could rebrand these. It was, hey, we're already doing these things. They're a part of who we are and what we're doing. Let's memorialize that. So it's been a really a positive thing to see how they influence each other for our organization.
I know it was in Sue and I had never thought of it. And that's what I mean when we ask people to come on Facebook Live with us, is because, I remember texting her right after I got off the phone with your team, the Eagles, to say, oh my God, you know what they're doing? They're taking their values, their core values, their 7Cs, their expectations of great over the top behavior. And then they're saying, here's the tools and equipment that you need to carry out these behaviors, right? Managing up is how you do, care and concern for a coworker, and how you show a level of commitment to them is by managing up. So yeah, genius. Now you mentioned a merger. You said the word merger. So before everyone gets all cranked up thinking that all those beautiful little hospitals in Southwest Wisconsin are going to merge. No, but in fact, you guys in the past year, like, why not throw this on board during a pandemic? Let's just do it. Merged with your medical center, which was a really huge deal for your organization. An extra 100 employees. And, it may not have felt flawless, but from our seat, you guys executed that just beautifully. But I know you have a story from behind the scenes things that kind of went on. Give us an example of, how do you take two cultures, two sets of behaviors to standardize?
Sure. You're right. Merging a for-profit medical group and a not-for-profit hospital, boy, that's a difficult task. It's certainly one that we were faced with that challenge, but we knew the outcome was to be so positive for our community that it was a kind of a have to do, and have to do it right. And so, what certainly wasn't without its challenges, but we were really intentional about how we honored both of those cultures. That was an important piece to us to recognize that, there's two cultures coming together, and we have to take sort of the best of both and create a common reality with common expectations moving forward. And so there were lots of bumps in the road, and there were certain areas that had more overlap with this than not. It was a lot of work for our VP of professional services, and thankfully we have a fantastic one right there. But if you think about a clinic having a lab and an imaging service, as well as a hospital, those have frankly very different expectations in terms of the timelines, the protocols that happen, the deliverables, the resulting that may occur. And so those individual leaders had a lot to do when they were going through their lab and imaging optimization efforts, and met very frequently to gather all stakeholders together to kind of talk about those issues. And I don't think they really realized it at the time, but what they were working on was service recovery. I think the Richland Hospital, we follow the 4A model, which is created by our 4 Excellent Care team of anticipate, acknowledge, apologize, and amend. And so, this group really expanded that definition to of service recovery to go beyond just patients. And so I've always held the philosophy that any work unit services many customers. Some are patients and external. Many are internal providers, employees, senior leaders that have varying expectations and budgets to work within. And so there's just really a lot of stakeholders at play here. And so service recovery is, it's more than just a policy to compensate upset patients. It's about missed expectations. It's primarily about listening. There has to be kind of a hearing of all stakeholders about what their expectations are, what their best case scenario is. It's about relationship building and tending. I mean, these were foundational relationships from new leaders to existing hospital structures. And so it was a really important piece for those relationships to be built on a foundation of candor and of honest, assessment of the situation at hand. It's ongoing. It's still going on right now. We do this
Sure.
PDSA model for it. It's what worked 2 years ago at the start of the pandemic or pre-pandemic has changed tremendously, as has our staffing level, frankly. And so we've had to kind of come back to the table and get together and say, well, how do we work this with, a less than ideal staffing level right now? So for us, it's beyond an opportunity to just make things right that didn't go well. It's to make things better for our future. And so there are bonds that are formed. When you admit a process that there was a breakdown in or an expectation that just doesn't jive with one another, you come together to fix that. Those bonds are incredibly strong. And so we have one new leader in there who's come in and just really done a fantastic job of solidifying those, admitting that we're coming to this with no end result in mind. We care for our patients, and we need to do that the best way possible. And the delivery models are different. So how do we get that? And so one of the things that they did really well was they needed to identify the problem. And so they sought out feedback. They found each other. They found a spot that they can do that without, checking their egos or checking anything that they needed to move on from and get that. And then they incorporated into their leader rounding. So the leaders round together regularly in addition to this committee. And then they kind of survey their groups to say, let's check in, let's see how it's going. Are there areas, that we're working that have fallen behind, or areas that we just need to devote more attention to? And then I think the biggest piece of it is that they committed to this fix. There's not a lot of opportunities for third chances in life. And so they just really wanted to say, let's get it right now, and let's commit to making a fix where we need to make a fix, and let's do that. So I think it's been a really great opportunity for them to and their teams because they brought their teams along and said, how is this going to impact your work life and your world? Help us influence the decisions moving forward. So we asked for the solutions from the people who are facing the biggest problems, and it's been really impactful for us.
Yes. So a great thing, actually, an amazing thing. So now that you're on the almost other side of it, 3/4. Well, so thank you, Paul. You've heard how one organization did an amazing and genius job placing high standards for safe and satisfying service at the center of everything that you do. If you'd like to learn more about how the Richland Hospital did it, as well as the rest of our partners, we have a free webinar coming. It's called Overcoming Safety, Teamwork, and Patient Care Challenges with a 5-step approach. So January 19th at noon Eastern time. Always ahead of you, Central people. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate you.
Thank you.